order the Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024 meeting of the Planning Commission. Everyone can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
You aren't very convincing.
No, I wasn't sure what she said.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kristen, when you do the roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Dolan?
Here.
Commissioner Stapp?
Here.
Commissioner Hamame?
Here.
Commissioner Arnson?
Here.
Commissioner Woods?
Here.
Chair Kempner?
Here.
And Commissioner Bardas said he would be absent this evening.
Does anyone have a motion to excuse Commissioner Bardas?
So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? His absence is excused. Approval of the agenda.
Looks like the person we're waiting for is here. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes of May 28th, 2024. Do I have a motion or changes?
No changes. I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Communications. Kristen, do we have any communications?
The only thing is you all have a copy of the Michigan plan.
This is the time for citizen comments. It's for items not on the agenda. You'll have 3 minutes to come up and tell us what's on your mind. Is there any citizens here for commenting for things not on the agenda? All right, with that, I will close citizen comments and move on to PSP 0924 at 3170 Coolidge. And Kristen, tell us about it, please.
Sure, just a quick correction, it's actually a typo on the agenda, it's 0224 for this occasion. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a proposed restaurant, this is at the corner of Beverly and Coolidge. This is used for review of a facade, and then they're also adding a small addition for a walk-in cooler. The parking lot's essentially staying the same, resurfacing, restriping would be something we would review through our department administratively, as well as the dumpster location, but those are on there as well. You'll notice there's a parklet shown, that is an administrative review process. So they have not submitted the application for that yet, but it would be separate from this consideration. The plans generally meet the requirements of the ordinance. They are asking for a reduction in the transparency from 40% to 30%. If they feel that that is warranted, the applicant did submit a letter requesting that. Other than that, if you choose to approve, you would need to find that the site plan meets the standards of section 138-679. I am available for any questions if you have any, and obviously the applicant's here too.
Okay. Question?
Chris, isn't this an existing building?
This is an existing building, so they have a small walk-in cooler addition.
I'm asking primarily, at least from my edification, the transparency issue. We're still getting more than it exists, right? It's not all glass.
It's not all glass right now. They may be increasing it a little bit. I'm not sure what the existing transparency is. The applicant may be able to indicate that, but it is a whole updated facade, yes. And they are working within the walls of the existing building.
But the existing building doesn't conform currently to
No.
existing ordinances.
No.
No.
So it's legal non-conforming.
Correct.
So this would conform it even more.
Yeah, this is definitely bringing it closer to compliance with the ordinance in terms of the facade updates.
Okay.
Just for clarification, as you know, we're discussing and then later motioning, it's 3170 in a few places. It's 3180 in a few places.
3170 is the
Okay.
correct address.
Okay.
So the agenda's wrong because of the PSP, sorry.
Isn't it both addresses? Because it's the lot to
Well,
the south too?
The building is marked 3180.
It is both addresses.
Okay.
So we have it in our system as 3170 because we go with the lowest address.
Okay.
So if that can be referenced, that would be good.
So I know that this is not part of what's before us, but as a question about the parklet, how is that? So this is an unusual one because it's like on a parking area, but it's on the other side of the sidewalk. So is that considered the right of way then, or is like?
Yeah, those are actually parking spaces on Beverly in that little pull-off.
Okay.
So yes.
So what was approved before? Did that only allow those to happen from like May to October or something weird like that? Wasn't there a time limit that parklets could be in the right of way?
Yes, I believe that there is a time limit. There's dimension requirements and different things that we check administratively. So I would ask the commission to note that there's a parklet, but completely ignore anything associated with the drawings because I have not reviewed that.
Right, right. It just seems like a perfect place for a parklet, and I would hate for it to only have to operate for those months. There's no way that we can get around that. And like, is that a council approval? Is that a you, or like, do you remember?
It would be an ordinance change.
Okay. Like, I mean, I think I get it on Coolidge, right? Like
This is a weird space
Yeah.
because it is a unique cutout on Beverly that most side streets don't have.
right. Okay.
I would say let's let that sit for a little
Okay.
bit. and
Yeah,
we
I
can-
mean, I know it's not on
Yeah.
here. I just saw it and I was like, Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes. Any more questions? The applicant like to come up and say anything? Rock, paper, scissors?
Thank you. My name is Tom Pasolka. I'm the architect of record for the project, working with Travis and the building owners. Really the intent is to take what the abandoned auto shop is, like Kristen was saying, completely, it's already vacant, but completely take it to stud on the interior or brick and really transform it into a really, another staple here for eating, dining, and that kind of entertainment side. We thought the parklet could overflow out, so you have a little bit more seating capacity and more opportunities there, and really look at how that really works along the frontage of Coolidge, and trying to be consistent with the other shops that line Coolidge all the way through. So.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
No, but I want to compliment you. It looks great. It's a great design.
Yeah.
Thanks. I can't. Yeah, it's his brainchild, so we'll just help him see it through.
I do have one question. I'm not seeing an ADA parking space. Is that,
We will designate one closest to, probably the closest to the front door.
okay.
It is angled, so we'll designate that.
Okay, so you'll lose a spot then?
Yeah,
So there'll be 6 spots
right.
on there?
Yep.
And we'll review that as part of the building permit that's submitted for striping.
Okay.
Yes.
Why do you say 6? What, am I
There's-
missing something?
You'll have a,
Oh, once they add an ADA, there'll have to be a striped out spot. So one ADA spot, it'll have to be a van accessible, so it'll be 8-foot wide spot with an 8-foot crossed out area.
So it would take up essentially 2 spots, you're saying?
Yeah.
yep.
So 7 then? Or 8?
This is within municipal parking, so,
This lot right here.
yeah.
Oh, that
Okay.
looks different than,
That's-
I see.
You're looking
Yeah,
at the
there's like
topo.
Yeah, it looks a little different. That's why I was confused.
Is there any way to put a little landscaping over there by the cooler?
We can look at that. It might be more maybe artificial.
I'm sorry?
Maybe planters are artificial.
Okay. Yeah, just a
Like a
little bit of
screening?
green space.
Yeah.
You probably would want to protect.
Hardscaping rather than landscaping, beautification.
Well, I'm looking for greenery, and you probably would want something to protect that cooler, I would think.
was gonna say,
A
yeah.
bollard
Is there-
or some I mean, I was thinking
bollard.
curb with, I probably don't want a tree in there so close to the building,
Right.
but I don't know, something to consider.
That's a good point.
Would that be, Kristen, part of the staff site plan review for any type of protection
So,
for that?
because they're not really changing the parking lot other than adding the cooler, they wouldn't be required to add any additional landscaping. Really, the modifications they're doing, obviously the interior, and then the small addition and the facade. So,
I guess I was asking more on a protection.
oh, the bollards,
Yeah,
yes. We would look
yeah.
at that as part of the building permit review.
Okay, thank you.
So this is just coming to us because it is a facade change of more than 50%.
And the cooler.
And,
Addition, right?
and the addition.
Yeah, that little addition.
Did this come through before? Because I see it says submittal number 2.
There was a submittal prior that I reviewed. This is the second
okay.
submittal that I've seen.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
So are we just looking at the windows then?
I mean, that's the main thing that you have to consider. You're mostly looking at the facade.
See, yeah.
Okay.
So any facade changes have to come to us, and we have to make sure that they're appropriate. In this case, because the transparency doesn't meet our desired transparency, we have to give a waiver for that. And then we have to approve of that small, we have to approve of the small addition, right?
Was there anything with the like the paintings on the side of the buildings or anything like that? Was that in?
Are you asking about a mural?
Yeah, mural. Thank you.
So murals would be approved separately by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Okay, gotcha.
Not intending for a mural, not like Green Lantern or anything.
So, Kristen, one last question from me. I noticed that there's a report in here that you prepared, which seems to indicate that there's some conditions to approval. Would that be added to a motion? So it would be
Yeah, you could-
conditioned on,
You could just reference my review. That would be fine.
are there any other reviews that would be applicable? Consultant reviews, engineering reviews, nothing, just your review?
Just
So
mine.
then the motion would include everything in your last paragraph plus
Yes.
your review?
Yes.
May I speak to the council?
Yes, please.
Thank you so much.
Just make sure you state your name for us.
My name is Terrence Fouts. I'm one of the owners of the building, along with my 2 partners, Christine and Katie. So yeah, this building on Coolidge, 3180 Coolidge, as I know it lovingly, the white shoebox, I call it. It's a dilapidated building. It's been sitting for many years uninhabited. We've taken it on as purely a beautification project. I think everything that we'll do in conjunction with Travis and his team, who will be the operating entity, is only going to enhance the beautification of the building. So in terms of things around the the dumpster, the build out coolers, or things like that. I mean, every stone we move is going to make this look better than it looks now. And our goal is to make it, dare I say, a bit of a legacy project, but I mean, we really want this to stand out in the community as sort of a diamond and draw people into the community to stay and shop and enjoy other amenities. So I just wanted to add that from kind of the 10,000 sky foot view overall. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so I guess I'll start with transparency. How do we feel about the transparency?
I think it's an improvement, brings it closer in line to what's required. I'd be in full support of the waiver.
Absolutely.
I do just have one question. Is there a reason why you couldn't go up to the 50% from a
40.
architectural?
It's 40.
40. Yeah.
40%?
Because it's such a narrow frontage along Coolidge, if we were to count the side along Beverly, that would help, but since we're only strictly looking at Coolidge, what we wanted to do is also keep a certain height.
Could you talk on the microphone?
Yeah, a certain height off the street, so we lined the street with chairs or benches, so if you put the glass too low, your back's gonna be against the glass. So we're trying to be cognizant of not having any unforeseen damage for that, but, and then because I did look at it in certain elevations, and it's quite a bit, like 40% is quite a lot of percentage, so.
And this is just the frontage on Coolidge, correct? So it's not the wraparound on Beverly?
No, it only strictly deals with the front.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
It's the only area that counts, right, Kristen?
The front, yes.
Yeah, right.
Technically.
technically. So there is more on Beverly, it's just.
Right.
I was just gonna clarify that point. I mean, there is
Yeah.
almost, I'm an architect and I haven't had my tape measure, but there's probably as much window and exposure there, and we intend to open it up a little bit more. There were some existing windows that have been, bricked over, so, probably not the full pieces, but there will be, more light let into the building from the Beverly side as well.
I guess, is it changing? Are you actually going up a little bit from, at least from the rendering, it looks like maybe it's,
Yeah, we're going up and down
Okay.
a little bit
okay, from what is existing?
from what's existing, right?
Okay, thanks.
So we're all in agreement that, for the transparency waiver.
Yes.
How are we feeling about the facade?
Definitely an improvement. Looks great.
I think it looks
good.
great too.
Yeah, and I think it looks lovely. And I'm glad you're not thinking of a mural, because I think that wouldn't fit on this building. It looks very cute and charming and cozy, and I don't know. I like it how it looks. Anyone have questions on the facade or thoughts, or are we cool?
We're good.
All right. And are we calling it an addition for the cooler?
It is a small addition.
Small addition. And we're
It's
fine.
nice to have a cooler.
Yeah, it's necessary, and it doesn't really impact anything. It looks like, it's
And the space looks pretty small. If the cooler goes inside, he loses seats. Maybe wouldn't even make it very profitable.
Can we talk about parking, or is parking off the table for?
I'm sure we can talk
it's-
about it, but it's not a decision we can make.
It's
or-
within the municipal radius, so we can talk, but
That's
it
right.
doesn't make any
It's not gonna
difference.
change anything.
No, I just noted that there's not much on-site parking, obviously. Most of the people are gonna be parked in the lot over there.
So what's your expected operating hours?
Operating hours is like 5 to 10, Monday through Friday,
Monday
and then brunch 10 to 2,
Okay,
Yeah.
on Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday and Sunday. Yep.
So
We'd love to
since-
do lunch, but we'll see how it goes.
So I had some curious questions too that had nothing to do with
Yeah.
what we needed to decide. Can I ask a few?
Sure.
What do you envision?
As far as,
Well, I
What
imagine
kind of
it's
food are you giving
French.
us?
I
you
imagine
want to
it's
like
French
the
food.
business model? It won't be French food.
It won't be.
I do own Bar Pigalle in Detroit, which is very French, and that was my first business. But it also kind of put us in a little bit of a box. Everyone kind of wants this French, and it kind of limits. So for this business, we definitely want to do it elevated along that, but definitely more approachable. So the cuisine is going to be called New American Comfort. That's the direction we're going. So you're going to see French influence for sure, because that's American.
I was going to say the name is misleading.
Well, the name that's not technically our DBA yet, so it's a placeholder. The business is, filed as, Berkley Brasserie LLC. And quite honestly, I'm so exhausted of thinking of names that it might just kind of land on that, because I do like the name, but we haven't really decided on that yet. But it's definitely New American. We're going to take brasserie elements just from the design, so some of the back bar and some of the things we're going to pull from what we know. But
So you say upscale, will you have like bands, or are you just
No.
thinking?
no live music. I mean, it'll operate similar to the other business, just like upscale casual as far as like the product and services. So it'll be a full service restaurant, host stand, seating, all that kind of stuff. We don't have any plans for live music. It'll just be more like family friendly than Bar Pigalle, because that's a little bit more, more drinking and like more Detroit.
Yeah.
And I live here. I've lived here for 15 years, and I want a place to go.
So without counting the individual seats, what's the capacity?
The bar is around 17. Everything inside, not including outside, is going to be around, I would say, 100.
Oh, wow.
Give or take. Yeah. And then the outsides,
That's with outdoor seating, you said?
that's without outdoor seating.
Without,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely right. This would be a big boost to the city. We need more bars and restaurants and things like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you could fit some bike racks by the cooler.
I mean, I'm all for it. I'm open to anything, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's gonna be my pick. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm very open to anything. I mean, the way that, as far as the build out design, I kind of just like, that's why I had Tommy to speak first, because it's like, let everyone do what they do, and then we'll make the decision that's best represents the business and the community. And yeah, so if we need the cooler, if, because the dumpster's positioned behind, if we have to put up some sort of a wall or partition, I mean, we'll do it, whatever it takes.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, well, I noticed it says takeaway. Like, is that a takeout window that's on Beverly sidewalk there?
So that's actually, I mean, as far as the design, we're still kind of working through that. The design team put a takeaway window because they were thinking like Uber Eats. So we had a long conversation about that. I'm like, well, it's not necessarily, I mean, we'll do it, but it's not our business model.
Okay.
So there is talks about, just getting rid of it. I don't
Okay.
see the need for it
Okay.
because really there's no foot traffic anyways.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So I don't see a lot of need for that. Yeah.
Okay. No, thanks. So that would not be. So that'd probably be not in like the final submittal of it or whatever.
And if they're just taking the one window away, that's something we can review
something
administratively.
you're-
Yeah, I mean, and the only other alternative that I talked about, and again, this has to go through review, is just moving it over to that other window, which would be like the service well area, only to service the patio, if the patio gets approved. That was the
Gotcha.
only other thought, but
Yeah. No, I was just looking at making sure it's I guess enough ADA compliance from the sidewalk perspective. Of,
for sure,
you
yeah.
know, people milling about or kind of blocking the sidewalk and
Yep,
letting people be able to walk through.
for sure. And I did get on looked at all the compliance for that, and I'm going to submit all that kind of stuff this week, and I know it's a separate
Yep.
thing. I'm on it.
You just get the benefit of us having a very small agenda.
I know,
and
I like-
curious minds, because we're way beyond what we're supposed
Way
to be looking at.
beyond. And I was
Yeah, and I
just like,
appreciate
do I
it.
rein everyone in for a minute?
I'd say. Sounds good. It's all good information. I'm just soaking it in. So.
All right. So I think we've agreed on all of our stuff. Does somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve, let's see, PSP 02-24?
Yes. 3170
With
Coolidge.
the, I wasn't ready, see?
I'll do it. I'd like to make a motion to approve PSP 02-24 for 3170 Coolidge Highway. We find that the site materials and architecture are, as presented, meet the standards for site plan approval per section 138-679. We also find that the reduced transparency to 30%, which is proposed, is adequate. And we make that recommendation, we approve that subject to the review of the Community Development Director's report.
Do we have to add about the addition too?
No, that's
That's you.
fine. Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Well, for the walk-in cooler.
You're approving the whole,
Okay.
the plan, so it's
Okay, perfect.
Support.
Can you call the roll?
yes. Commissioner Stapp,
Yes.
Commissioner Hamame,
Yes.
Commissioner Ernstman,
Yes.
Commissioner Woods,
Yes.
Commissioner Dolan,
Yes.
and Chair Kempner.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Congratulations. We can't wait to see it.
Good luck.
Thank you. Moving on to election of officers and committee liaisons.
So I have a few things to say about this. You have your usual officers to elect this evening. But I was wondering if the commission wanted to consider whether they feel all of the committee liaisons that we currently have, if all of those spaces should be filled. You're not required to do any of these. And I think it might be worth considering whether each and every liaison you have sent to these various boards and commissions is providing a benefit to the commission and to that other board or commission. I know we've had some trouble in the past with people being able to fill all the spots, and some of that I think is related to morning meeting times and things like that. But if the commission wanted to discuss whether each and every single spot should be filled, this would be the time.
I mean, so I'm happy to go to the DDA meetings. I know that they're at a weird time.
And I think the DDA meetings are probably one of the most important ones for our committee.
That's what I was gonna say too. Because we have to work so hand in hand with what they're doing.
When Kristen was talking about that, the first thing I thought of, well, it has to be DDA. So I appreciate that.
I mean, I'm overly involved anyways, so it's easy to go. I think the environmental committee is somewhat important too. I think they're trying to move forward with ideas on ways to affect the city, right? And trying to come up with plans and all of that kind of stuff. So if someone has that availability, I think that one has some benefit.
Has anybody been going?
Yes, I would disagree with you on that. I don't think it didn't overlap very much at all with what we were doing.
No?
There's maybe a little bit based on they want everybody to just have local plants or whatever. But other than that, it was a lot more like on the sale at the Berkley days and doing other events and things like that. So other than that, it didn't really overlap, I think, with a lot of it.
Okay.
Do they as a committee look at site plans at all?
No, they're actually just an advisory.
They're just an
committee.
advisory. Didn't they come up
So
with
they don't
a...
have any authority like the planning commission or council or zoning board of appeals.
I did present to them the new zoning ordinance because they were interested in that. And that's always an option that I can drop in when things are relevant to various boards and commissions as well.
Am I remembering wrong? I want to say a few years ago, didn't they come up with a fairly robust plan for the city?
I think that you're remembering correctly. And I think there would be opportunities then for crossover when it makes sense. I don't know if it makes sense for every meeting.
Right.
So maybe when you give us your report in the meetings, you can say there's something coming up in this particular committee. It'd be a good idea if someone can go. More of an as needed.
Or alternately, I mean, I know the city manager's office has a list of all the board chairs. So maybe before the meeting, here we have a planning commission meeting coming up. If there's something that your group is doing that's relevant to planning commission, let us know by X date and I'll include it.
Yeah.
Or have them contact us if they have something and they think it'd be good put the onus on them.
So for the zoning ordinance, they did contact me and ask me to come and talk about it. But I think it could go both ways.
Yeah, I think, I know the chamber wants somebody, right?
They're one of the ones with the hard meeting time, though. But yes, they very much.
But I also don't know that their land use stuff a whole lot, right? It's where the DDA is doing some land use kind of stuff. The chamber is just kind of boosting all the businesses. So that one feels while I recognize they really want us there, I don't know that it's super relevant.
When are the meetings?
They're the third Wednesday of the month, usually at 8:30 in the morning
Chamber.
for the chamber. And I think Joe was going to them.
Oh, was Joe?
In the morning?
I think so. Every now and
Usually
then.
chambers are in the morning.
Okay. Yeah, I think Joe was going, but I thought it was at night in the
I mean,
evening.
they have several different events. That's their regular meeting time.
Okay, gotcha.
But they have their evening mixers and different things.
Oh, maybe those. Okay,
You might have been popping into
You might have
there.
been just going to the mixers.
maybe. I think it was the third Tuesday.
You just outed him.
Maybe they were. I think they had one at the Meyer at Woodward Corner, so I don't think they'd be. Maybe they're having coffee. I don't know. But I think it was at the same time as the environmental one, which was I think the third Tuesday of the month.
So environmental's changed to the third
Third.
Thursday.
Now they're doing
Yeah,
Thursday.
they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're switched back to, because that's what messed me up, because I was going for a while when they were on Thursdays, and then all of a sudden, they started being on Tuesdays. And,
And then I went.
yeah, then you were
Yeah.
going for a while.
Is the DDA and chamber the only two that meet during the day?
Yes.
So I guess I'm happy to take the DDA. Is there anything that calls to any of you that you're like, yeah, this is a good excuse to be there that you want to go to? Because I also think with city council, Kristen is capable of reporting to us on anything.
And we usually have Councilmember Patterson here too.
Who sends his regards? He's stuck at work.
So I really do wish I had the time for it right now, because I mean, as all of us, we're essentially business owners in what we do. So getting involved in the chamber isn't a bad thing, but I can't.
Daytime meetings are hard for
Yeah, it's hard
Well,
to.
nighttime also.
anytime for you. You're a busy girl.
And if no one's available, no one's available.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, well, Joe already has the chamber covered, but that would be one that I'd be able to step into if he's not able to. I mean,
Oh, is he going to them?
He was occasionally, yes.
And then he
But again-
stopped going, and that's why they reached out?
No, they reached out, I think the last time we did this, and said there hasn't been anyone in a long time. We'd really like someone. So then Joe started to jump in when he can. I don't know that he's going all the time.
Maybe you guys
So
can tag
maybe-
team it.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, so maybe when Joe can't go, he sends around,
yeah.
lets you know, and you can send around an email going, Joe can't go, is anyone else available to cover?
Right? Or that's even okay for you two to discuss.
That would be fine, yeah.
Right. He can say like, hey, you want to take this one?
Are they cool with that, though, or do they?
Yeah, they just want
don't
someone
care?
there.
They just want a body.
Yeah, warm preferably.
Unless it's Berkley, and then it can go either way.
There you go.
All right.
Are there any other?
So there's council, which I do think it's duplicative to have. That's my personal opinion. It's up to you guys to have me there and a planning commissioner. And then we also have a city council member here who can share what's going on. But that's your choice. And then the other one is zoning board of appeals.
Which I do think has some, I mean, again, Kristen can come and report to us, but there's some relevance if somebody can make that.
When are those?
We're not looking at you, Lisa.
I know, well, I'm looking at you because
They-
I think there is a potential conflict issue there.
So it's just a liaison. It's
Yeah.
not a voting member.
But, I mean, couldn't something go to, I understand what you're saying, it'd be worse if it were a member,
Mm-hmm.
but it's still somebody who is watching the planning commission. I mean, I guess
you could
saying it
watch
out loud,
You
I
can
guess.
watch it at home now, I mean.
Yeah, as I'm saying it out loud, I'm realizing
As long as they're not a voting, because, yeah, that
they
would-
don't participate
Yeah.
in the discussion, even as a liaison, to not participate in the discussion.
Is your brain ready? Because we're totally allowed to have a planning commissioner on the ZBA.
You are, yes, but we don't.
Here, right, we don't.
So I will tell you, I am not.
And I'm sure
that
you don't for a
typical?
reason.
It's only been as long as I've been here. So 8 years. I think that hasn't, because Dean Smith was on both.
Is that
Yeah.
typical of other communities? That they
I
have a
don't
planning commission
see
member
many
on the
communities
ZBA?
take advantage of that, no.
Is that a state of Michigan thing?
It's in the state law, correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, that you can do that. I just don't know of any communities that do.
We don't recommend you do it because of a potential conflict.
Yeah.
Well, and
I
then
would-
you're voting on the same thing
And
twice.
you can't vote on it twice, which means you have to abstain,
Right.
which just gets complicated.
Yeah.
So I am not the staff person for the ZBA. That is Kim Anderson,
true,
our zoning administrator. So I don't regularly attend those meetings. Occasionally I will if something comes up, but not typically.
So I think it's important in that way that if something comes to the ZBA over and over and over and over and over, and we haven't addressed it, that maybe we need to relook at that standard and see if, well, yeah, that sucks, right? You just have to keep coming in that instance, or can this be tweaked to better serve the residents?
Could we get like a report from them? Is that something?
You read the
Who's,
the meeting minutes.
who's gonna
Just
do it, though?
meeting
She
minutes?
doesn't go.
I mean, we could get the
I think Kim
meeting
does them, doesn't she?
minutes.
Yeah, the minutes are available online, and we can try to pay attention too. With the new zoning ordinance in particular, the ZBA will be a place where errors that are maybe made or not totally thought through are going to become apparent
Right.
real quickly. And I anticipate even when we adopt the new ordinance, there's going to be things that we didn't think all the way through, or we might have missed this thing here, and we're going to need to make some adjustments.
I could go to that meeting if you guys think it's worthy to have a plan commission member there. And it sounds like it's not a concern with conflict of interest stuff, because I wouldn't be voting, but I could go. It's the second Monday of the month.
For most months, if there's a council meeting that night, then it bumps to Tuesday, but
Okay.
that
And
doesn't,
if there's nothing on the agenda, then they don't even meet.
Right.
Like, so they don't
Yeah.
generally meet 12 times a year. It's usually like 8.
6 to 8, yeah.
Okay. You can put me down for that one.
Okay.
Does the city attorney go to those meetings?
No, not unless he's requested.
Your head's been.
No. I have some communities that don't want me there either, but that's where we see the trouble.
Yeah, it would be like,
Yeah, I would think that
We
the
wouldn't
attorney
be
should be there
like
at
a,
all of them.
I don't want to say a target, but like, because if somebody, we would be the ones administrating kind of the ordinance or the first, and then they would go to the ZBA from at least that perspective. So like with that,
So you could have an instance where a plan comes to you and it needs a variance, and you approve it subject to the variance, and it's sent to the ZBA. But mostly the ZBA is looking at residential additions, it's kind of like their bread and butter. Sign stuff, that's mostly what they're doing.
or if we don't approve something and it goes,
So I think that's one time with Vincetta Garage where they came, and that was before I was even up here. So they had came here, it was denied, so then they went to ZBA.
okay.
But I think most of the time it's appealing an administrative decision,
Yeah.
not necessarily an us decision.
Okay.
Okay.
Can I just go over to make sure I have everything written down? So Commissioner Dolan will do the ZBA. City Council will come off the list as a liaison position. Environmental will be as needed, and I can coordinate with them on that. DDA will be Chair Kempner, and then the Chamber of Commerce, Commissioner Woods, and Commissioner Bartis will figure it out.
Have you talked to Commissioner Bartis? Is he good with continuing?
I have not, so I can check with him.
Does that need a motion?
It doesn't need a motion, does it? No. Okay.
Check with him on those happy hours too.
You might find a lot of people who are willing to like take over that part.
That's why I volunteered.
All right, election of officers. Currently, I'm chair. Commissioner Bartis is vice chair.
I'm gonna pull it up right now.
What are we calling that?
So,
Well, seeing as though we
Currently-
put Commissioner Bartis,
Commissioner Bartis is vice chair, and Commissioner Woods is secretary.
Anyone else want to throw their hat in the ring for anything? Arm wrestle.
We love how it is.
yeah, I think it's
Perfect.
running smoothly.
Seems like you're always here, so.
I'm always
we
here.
haven't really tested anything.
No, I know, yeah.
The treasurer.
So, secretary, what is
We don't have any money,
secretary?
right?
So you're, if,
We got no
if
money.
Yeah.
the chair and vice chair are both absent, you run the meeting.
You good with that,
I was
Commissioner?
gonna say how I just discovered this.
Maybe you weren't there that day.
You might have not been here.
You know, I'm pretty
Be
sure it
careful
was
missing
it.
a meeting.
No, I'm okay with that. But if anyone else feels strongly about being secretary, feel free.
Not at all.
Pretend keep those minutes that Kristen gets to keep instead.
You say I should have been taking notes this whole time.
All right.
Is, so nobody else wants to, you're not interested in anything
No.
right now?
Yeah.
So, are you all accepting the nomination?
Yes.
I'm fine.
Then we're gonna assume, yeah.
I think I heard a yes from over there. I don't know.
I mean, I got voted in an abstention. I don't see why Joe could-
Oh no.
Alright, so then I'll make a motion to, what is it, appoint?
Elect.
Nominate
Okay.
Chair Kempner to remain chair, Secretary Woods to remain secretary, and Joe
Bard is
Bartis to remain vice chair.
support.
Can that be an all in favor?
Sure can.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Do we have any liaison reports?
I could give or I
I
guess
think you gave your environmental.
not the environmental, the Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan. Is that
Yeah.
that'd be appropriate? Okay. So Commissioner Bardis and myself are kind of steering team members for the Southeast Oakland County Communities Safe Streets for All Safety Action Plan, comprehensive safety action plan that is headed by Ferndale, City of Ferndale, but it includes Berkley and some other surrounding communities and cities. So we had a second public meeting at Hazel Park Community Center last week. So it went well. No, actually, Councilmember Hennon was there. Didn't get to really chat with him much on stuff, but no one else from Berkeley was there. But getting some interesting ideas and stuff for kind of the safety action plan, which then kind of can help open up different avenues for grant opportunities, for federal grant opportunities, for safety projects throughout the city. So.
Out of curiosity, the people who show up to those, are they more like, I don't like bike lanes, don't change a whole lot, keep my city the way it is? Or is it more like people who are, yay bike lanes and
And it's probably just planners and stuff, isn't it?
What?
What you were intending, is that
Yeah, it's
open to the public, or?
It is open to the public. Yeah.
So I was gonna ask, so along the same line, you made a comment that there was only Councilmember Henneman there, nobody else from Berkeley came. Is it something that we should be encouraging people to go to? Is that something, I guess if you can help me understand, do you expect more people from Berkeley? Is it something we should be going to?
I think I've seen it posted on like the city Facebook page.
there's some posters around
Yeah,
and
there's
some
some
of
posters
the
around. Inviting people out for them. There was one Berkeley resident that came out to the first one that was in Pleasant Ridge. One, he thought it was for actual like safety, like police safety. So he was like, we need more police on the streets, and like everybody should turn their porch lights on, like mandatory. We're like, oh no, we're talking about like traffic safety and pedestrian safety. And it's like, oh, he's like, Coolidge is awful. He did not like the bike lanes on Coolidge. I would say the majority of everybody else in attendance throughout the different communities and cities, I think, are more in favor of those type of things. I think just professionally speaking, that's typically who you end up getting anyways at those type of public meetings is, more of those advocates for that. But
Are there more public sessions scheduled?
I believe that I have to double check. That might be it.
Okay.
There may be one more. I'm not sure if it was 3 or 2.
I think it might be just 2, and we don't have if there's a third one, we don't have a date yet.
Okay.
But there was a survey that you could take at the session. So
Yes,
for
we
people
do.
who do want to do that, it'll be out on the city's social media channels, the presentation materials from the session along with the survey.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Has there been any updates on 11 Mile safety study or
So
that effect?
we tried for a grant in cooperation with all the cities on 11 Mile from Southfield to Madison Heights. And we did not get that grant, but it would have been for a whole safety and streetscape plan along the entire length.
Oh, wow.
And we'll probably revisit that again at some point. But beyond that, there hasn't been anything. It has to be a coordinated effort for sure between us and Oak Park and Huntington Woods.
Yeah, because I was just thinking of that stretch between Woodward and Coolidge. But
Yeah, Huntington Woods is moving forward with some crosswalks there.
mid-block crosswalk.
Yes,
With hawk signals?
I believe so. That's under DPW, so I'm not sure exactly, but I know that they got some money to do some mid-block crossings and that section from Coolidge to Woodward.
So there is a website for the Southeast Oakland County Safe Streets for All. If you want to take a look, it's saferoadsoakland.com. Also, the Road Commission of Oakland County is also going through the same process for a comprehensive safety action plan. They have a website as well, interactive map that you can place different things on there for different experiences. They are having a public meeting, I believe, July 29th. It's like 3 to 6 p.m., and I believe it's in like Waterford. The information is on their website for that as well, but it also encompasses, it's the county, so local communities and cities are also kind of involved or can be involved. So it is high level plan, so it's not quite getting into real nitty gritty solutions, but if there are any things like that, it's always good to get out there and help the city with stuff. So
Does SEMCOG participate in these meetings?
no, they haven't. At least not the ones we were in. Yeah, they probably would if someone invited them, but.
I was just thinking because they have the checkbook for a lot of things.
Sure.
Oh, this is dangerous.
These, I don't even know if those were.
Have you done that?
I've never done it.
Do you want me to test it?
Before we close, I had a quick conversation on the parking, because there was something at the previous joint meeting we had that came up with, it sounded like 0.85 was the recommended from the parking study consultant. So actually at this meeting, I was talking to another consulting group, and they thought that probably something for Berkley would probably fall a little bit more in between 1.5 to 1.25 for multifamily parking per unit kind of thing. They thought maybe, they kind of jumped at 0.85, thought it was very progressive, as they said. So just wanted to throw that out there in case, so there may be some, some differences of opinion on that number.
I'm
but-
giving up on it.
Well, we have to include something.
I honestly, I'm about experts. I'm not an expert on parking. I truly don't know.
Yeah.
But we hired somebody who is an expert, and they told us this, right? So while I was saying more than that number, I didn't think we needed to go as high as we did, or some people thought we needed to go. So that was my whole bone of contention was we hired somebody who's a professional to tell us, but then we ignore it. And now I reflect back, and the people who we're more concerned about are the city council members who are getting the flack from not having enough parking. So I get it from that standpoint.
And it's a recommendation that the consultant was giving us, not
Right,
this is exactly the number, because it's pretty subjective, really.
Well, in all of my parking training and knowing that we were going to do the zoning ordinance, there were multifamily housing and parking are the two ones that I kept trying to concentrate on. And what I kept getting is yeah, you can make your parking as progressive as you want, but if it's not realistic, it doesn't matter. It doesn't
gonna have
actually
people upset.
make anybody build anything.
Right.
You count how many are actually used in your town, because every town is different. And a lot of those manuals are getting stuff from bigger towns that have the staff to be able to do those counts and throw it in. And they're probably in more metropolitan areas with mass transportation. And
Well, probably, I was thinking about this as well, and I kind of agree, but the bigger units, like the one that's on Coolidge, that's 50 units, those probably could tend to lean towards the more progressive number, the lower number. If it's a handful, or the townhomes that are on 12 Mile, if you have a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom townhome, I don't think people are going to be building 0.85 spaces for there, because it's such a small amount, you're going to no one's going to want to live there, right? But the
So-
larger 50-unit buildings,
So-
I could see you could get away with less. Just my own.
So the no one's gonna live there issue is the market demand, right?
Right.
If there's not enough parking, so I'm not gonna re-up on my lease, or,
Right.
Yeah,
Or
it's a pain to
even-
park here. I'm not gonna renew my lease.
Why would I stay here? I'll
Yeah.
move somewhere else.
I mean, my counter argument is that right now they're, at council, they're talking about going to permitted parking because, right, as of now, there's 150 cars on the street every night because they can't park where they're supposed to park, so they just park on the street.
But that's for
So-
just the single family.
I mean, it is,
Yeah.
but, you know, I mean, people will figure out other stuff if they have to, too, right? If my rent's cheaper here than three blocks down, or whatever reason, right? I really love this apartment, then I might park at CVS all night, or what have you, right? The Columbia had its own, like, buffering, because he has all those other properties around it.
I
I don't
think
know.
Commissioner Hamame and I have the same. It's because in our line of work, like, we assess an issue and we say we're going to hire an expert to give us an opinion on this issue. We vet the expert before we retain them. Then we retain them and they do their analysis and give us their opinion. So I think we're both assuming the city went out, hired an expert. They vetted that expert, said this is the person who should do the study. Then they did the study and they said, we don't like it. So it's kind of, I think that's our hang up is why can't we go with what the expert said?
And-
Because we vetted the expert, we hired the expert, and they gave us their opinion.
And I was going higher than that. I
Yeah.
even higher than that, but but anyway,
All right.
I digress. I will never talk about it again.
Until
But
the
I
next
did
time.
tell.
Until it comes
Yeah,
back
but
to
I
us.
did. But I did tell at that meeting. You were there. We started talking about the waiver, and I said, "Well, I'll give that waiver every time, or I'll vote to give that waiver every time." And then Council Member Villani says, "And I'll deny it every time it comes to us." I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you will. That was a fun
It's a very hot topic.
change.
Right, yeah.
Probably to be continued, because yes, it
Right, I
doesn't
mean,
go
I
away.
don't know why you're like, I'll never talk about it again,
Yeah.
because I was like, you think we're not gonna get this again?
I mean, I'll
You
never
totally
talk about
are.
what we need to put in the zone. I mean, I'm done with parking, whatever you guys decide.
Well, this might be a hot button question, but were there other recommendations that he had that we did not follow
In the parking?
for the parking specifically?
Oh, I'd have to go through use by use and compare.
So
I
that
don't
I wasn't
recall off
involved
the top
in the
of my
parking
head.
study. I just know that one exists and that's what was said. But I also know that when we were talking about it among members of council who were party to it, right when that report came out, they were concerned about that number and they didn't think it could be accurate and didn't think it would fit.
That particular number. Carlisle, when they were doing the zoning ordinance, did start with the chart that McKenna did as part of the parking study. Like, that's what we started talking about. I can't remember at the zoning ordinance steering committee if we adjusted any of the other ones. We may have adjusted a couple here and there, but I think it's generally what was in the parking study, because that's what they started with.
Yeah, I just look at it from it's fairly subjective. It's his expert opinion, yes, of course, but he's throwing that out as a guideline, and if the city feels that a different number would be more appropriate, then that's fine.
Yeah. In that line of work, I work in traffic as an engineer professional, so engineering judgment, there's a lot of subjectiveness outside of maybe law, right? So
Well, we would hire a consulting expert first and get their opinion and say, nope, we don't like that. We're going to go with someone else.
But every city is different. Every multi-family building in
Right.
Berkeley is different, where you might have a smaller townhouse where, yeah, maybe 0.85 would work. But you'd have a larger, multi-family, 2-bedroom, obviously that would not work, Not obviously, but most likely would not be enough parking, so. I looked at it as a guideline and didn't particularly agree with the 0.85, and I don't know.
I mean, so we know that the Ivy, people are living there, but it's always, the parking lot is still filled with trucks and the other buildings going up.
Right.
I think, 3 years from now or so, we're gonna have a really good idea of where that number lands once we see how those uses really function. And maybe 3 years is a lot to expect for the Columbia, but you know, in the next few years, I think we'll get a better idea of what our actual usage is, because most of our apartments before that are dated. They're small complexes.
Yeah.
So
Do you know when they're expected to break ground? The
No.
Columbia?
The next step right now, it was approved last
to
night
go
at the
back to
Planning
the
Commission.
city, right?
The PUD agreement was approved last night
Oh.
by the city council, sorry. So I have to go through and get that signed and recorded with the county, and then they're gonna do their building plan, so it's gonna be a bit.
Yeah.
Even if they move forward right away.
on that note, City Council member Greg Patterson texted me today, gave his condolences. He's stuck at work, and said to mention that the PUD went for its second reading, and the overnight parking permit ban thing went to council for its second reading. The permit process will be in probably the next council meeting. Like, what does that look like? Who can park on the street? What they did approve was the ability to put up no parking, because we're picking up leafs right now, and raised the parking fee to 50.
That's separate. It's
Oh, that's separate, too.
administrative. I mean, it's part of the package, but that doesn't go to council. It just goes through the courts right from the city manager.
Gotcha. But it's supposed to go up to 40?
50.
50. Basically gave the power to enforce parking. Is that
Yeah.
the best way to put it?
Right now, we have temporary parking permits that the police give out on their carbon copy paper, and that's not even permitted in the ordinance. So we're codifying the ability to even do that. We're making sure, like Chair Kempner said, that if it says no parking leaf pickup, that we can ticket for those sorts of things. It picks up snow emergencies, special event parking, so tickets for that. There's some obscure things that are included, or were included. For example, you're not allowed to have wrecked vehicles at an auto repair shop. Well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, so we took care of that part. So there's a couple other cleanup items, but the biggest point of contention was the annual parking permit. And like Chair Kempner said, that would be a separate policy document that's going to come to council at the August meeting.
And so the temporary permits, are we limiting it to 15? Is that?
That would be in the policy too.
That's in the policy one,
Yep.
okay. And so those were the things he asked me to mention to you all.
15 days.
15 passes per vehicle per year.
And how long are the passes good for?
One night.
Oh, one night. So 15.
15 nights
so
over a year.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And an easier permit process,
Yeah.
right? Where-
Yes, online. You
Online.
can do it from your phone.
Is there restrictions as far as, like, can anybody just go out and get a parking pass, or do they have to have reason?
So a temporary pass, anybody could get one. If you had a visitor over for the night or
Yeah.
whatever it might be. Right now, you can go to public safety and anyone can get a temporary parking pass.
Is there a restriction right now over how many?
No, because it's not even in the ordinance.
So once we start enforcing the parking, it would be probably a good assumption that people would be flocking to the police department to get the temporary pass.
Well, once the fine goes up to $50, and
Yeah.
And
I
it's,
would,
it's much harder to just sit on your couch and go, oh, I don't feel like getting up to swap the cars. I'll just pay the $10.
So is that,
but they
are
wouldn't
we-
have to go to public safety. They could just do it online. It'd be a
Online.
website.
right?
But it will track when you have to put in the license plate, and then it tracks. You know, after you get to 15, you can't do it anymore.
And the $50 fee is if you get a ticket, or a does it cost anything to get a temporary parking?
No, those would be free. The $50 would be an increase from the $10 parking tickets that everyone pays.
And
now.
then in addition to that, they're looking at what constitutes a hardship to get a permanent
Yeah, like you have
street
no parking, you have one spot in front of your garage that's a corner lot, and
Right,
you
right.
can only
All
park
of
one
those
I have
car.
no parking on my side of the street.
Is that a hardship?
No,
It's a
this would be like
whole separate-
lot specific.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Because I could see people abusing that, which is why we have the overnight parking ban in the first place.
So that's next month meeting. Keep an eye on that
Okay.
at city council, because they'll figure out under what circumstances, and all of that good stuff.
I have one thing to share
Yeah.
too. Email addresses are going to be changing from berkeleymish.net to berkeley.mi.gov. You guys shouldn't have to do anything. It should automatically change over, should work with your current passwords and all of that. But there will be something coming from IT in the very near future, because this change is going to happen at the beginning of August, to provide further information. But just wanted to give you a heads up.
And I know, is that in conjunction with the new website?
That is the idea.
Okay.
Yes. And then we'll also be launching, hopefully that same time, our BSNA online permitting.
Okay.
This will all happen at the beginning of August is the plan. But I'm going to say it's a penciled in plan.
Gotcha. All right. Anybody else have any comments or reports or
Move to adjourn.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 8:01.
I knew I'd get that smile.
Say nays so we can